All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Let's Talk About It Minot podcast. I'm your host, Rob Fuller. Got my trusty sidekick, Jonathan Starr, next to me.
We're back.
How you doing today?
I am doing well.
Good.
Snow's finally hit. Winter's here. That's
You're
all right.
happy about that. You're the only person in Minot.
I don't know if I'm happy about it, but...
Like, you never take a side on anything, and here you are. You're happy about the snow?
Okay. I am not looking forward to winter. I'm trying to stay positive. Let's be real. I'm not looking forward to winter.
Well, that makes me feel better because I was like, what the heck? Yeah. Nobody I've talked to was happy we got this.
Yeah. No, we actually have a conference that goes on at our church, and it messed a lot of things up. But that's all right.
Kids were home yesterday from school, obviously, right? So I was home all day with the kids, and
that's fun.
You don't ever get anything done. Like, I'm not complaining. I enjoyed the heck out of it, but you don't get anything you want to get done when kids are around. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, we skipped a week. We didn't have a podcast last week because we had a lot going on for you guys. We had 2 extra city council meetings in there.
We were working, man.
Oh, that's why we get paid the high bucks, right? The big bucks are coming to
4 to 6 hours a week or a month, man.
Yeah, 4 to 6 hours a month, absolutely. Now, before we get into any of our stuff, I do want to. I watched the podcast this morning. What was that? What's that one?
The Indie Talk.
Indie Talks. Thank you. Indie Talks. I watched all 3 of your podcasts that were out this week. But Indie Talks this morning. I saw your restaurant ranking.
Okay.
I want to get in on this.
You're gonna make some adjustments. Make some amends.
I don't need to make any adjustments. I just want to be number 4. Like you guys picked your snake thing, and you didn't pick any of the restaurants that I would take.
That's crazy. I'm
going to actually name 3 local restaurants that I think in my top 3. So number 3 would be Try Thai. I don't know if you like Chinese food or Thai food or anything. Fantastic locally owned joint. If you want to get some good stuff, go there. Second, and I was completely offended that none of the 3 of you guys said this. Mi Mexico. Mi Mexico, Ricardo and his family, they are absolutely fantastic. Some of the best Mexican food in the city, maybe even the state. Great company, great people.
You know, the owners at Mi Mexico are overlooked for the entrepreneurship that they bring to Minot.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, there's such a good family, right? I mean, they give back to the city of Minot in all things that they do. They own 3 or 4 businesses between the whole family. I mean, it's amazing.
They do it right.
Yeah. So, and then the last place, and this place is kind of a weird one because it's seasonal. Okay. So the Varden during the summer and everything has their regular restaurant, and then in the winter it goes to what's called the Chop House.
Okay.
And it's by appointment only. I believe it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah, it's reservations. It's we went there last week. It was the last Friday night with our neighbors, friends of ours, and it was the first night they'd been open to the public. Now, not very often will you see me go in a restaurant, and I don't eat out a lot, but not very often will you see me go in a restaurant and come out and go, that was absolutely the best thing I've ever eaten. Okay. All 4 of us got done with our meal there, and we looked at each other and we were like, that is the best food I've had in Minot or the best food I've had in 10 years. Wow. You know, I mean, like, it was that good. My wife had a steak. I had lobster manicotti. I think our neighbor's wife, she had that, and then my neighbor, he had another pasta dish with shrimp in it. But I mean, the shrimp were as big as a small lobster tail.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I've never ate at Varden's restaurant, whether during golf season or after.
I mean, their regular restaurant out there is good in the summer, sandwiches and fries and appetizers and stuff like that. I mean, it's good food. Like every restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good food, but one of the things like we were talking about, you go into a lot of restaurants and you come out and you're like, that was good, but it was kind of expensive. I mean, that's how we are in North Dakota, right? We always compare. Not one of us walked out of the Chop House last Friday and we're like, God, didn't say anything about price or anything because you're like, it was that good. It was so good. So if you guys get a chance, I know I wasn't on the ND Talks portion of this, but I'm doing my draft and I'm taking Try Thai, Mi Mexico, and the Chop House at Varden. So
out of the 9 restaurants that we chose, which one's your favorite?
I would say it's a tie. 2 of them. There's Ebenezer's and Schatz's.
Really?
Shots is, dude, we've been going to Shots since I was a kid. Like, when we were old enough to drive and do things, we'd go hang out after football on Friday night games or Saturday if we had a Saturday game or whatever it was. And what did we do? Inevitably, we'd go to the truck stop.
The only place open in town.
We'd eat fries and ranch at like midnight. Yes. I even remember after, city council, sorry, my phone is going off. Steph's trying to get a hold of me. I don't remember if it was homecoming or prom, but after one of those at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, we had gone to prom. I think it was prom, but anyway, we'd gone to prom. We'd gone to whoever had their hotel room, and everybody's like, "We're hungry. What should we do?" What did we do? We went to the truck stop. And we had a 99 or a 109 at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, there you go. That is a staple of Minot. Yeah. And I heard you guys talking about the Nefla soup.
Right.
Nefla soup is fantastic, and Shots has a great recipe. From what I understand, one of my very good friends, his name is Jarrett Schatz, and yes, he is a relative to all of them. I don't know, but he makes the absolute best Nefla soup that I've ever eaten in my life. And anytime he makes it each given year, he calls me and he gives me a couple bowls, and I take it home and I don't share it.
That's good. That's good. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
Have you ever had Jamaican vibes Nefla?
I haven't. I don't know that. I heard you guys talking about it. My wife's gone there. And gotten food from them a couple times, not the Nefla, but she says it's a very good place.
Yeah, it's not Norwegian style for sure, but it's good.
But Nefla's German.
Okay, see,
Nefla soup is German.
I'm very versed in my nationalities.
My dad's side of the family German, and so my grandma used to make it a lot, and she had very good.
It's not German either. It is very. They add a lot of spice in it, and it's good.
But the thing that makes it German, right? It's potatoes and bread dough, right? I mean, that's it. It's a German thing. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, it's
exciting stuff, man.
And then as far as bacon goes, I heard your guys' talk on bacon. I don't agree with you on the no bacon on donuts. Bacon is literally God's perfect food. It's like little drops of heaven every time you eat it, and I don't care what you eat it on or with. Tell me something bacon is bad with.
Donuts.
No. You've eaten a maple bacon donut, and you didn't like it.
I've picked off the bacon.
So you didn't try it?
No, I tried it. I'm like, no, we're not going to do this.
Well, I mean, there's no accounting for taste. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's all subjective.
No, but yeah, your guys' podcast, I thought they were interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and I love donuts too. And I don't mind bacon. Honestly, though, I will say I'm weird.
Interesting.
Well done. I like bacon, but I don't prefer it on my burgers. Honestly, this is a dumb story. Very dumb story. A 14-year-old kid. We're at a restaurant. They didn't have a cheeseburger on the menu. That's all I wanted was a cheeseburger. All they had was a bacon cheeseburger. So I ordered a bacon cheeseburger without the bacon.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like that with other foods. I'm not bacon. I'll eat bacon on just about anything. Yeah. Like, wrap something in bacon, it's better. Put bacon on it, it's better. But pickles. I'll eat pickles out of the jar. I'll eat them by themselves. I won't eat pickles on a burger. I won't eat relish on a hot dog. I don't know why, but you just get to those. And I'm just going to say this, Miranda, I saw what you said this morning about not liking peanut butter or ranch. I'm not sure that somebody who doesn't like peanut butter or ranch can be trusted with anything in this world. So I just want to throw that out there. I hope you're paying attention.
Yeah. Oh, dude, ranch is amazing. No, for me, what it is with bacon, I love the taste, but I like mine very
crispy.
I don't like it crispy.
Oh,
I like it the other
fatty.
Yeah.
See, my dad's like that. He likes bacon like where it's a little bit fatty and not raw but undercooked.
Yep.
And I'm a crispy bacon guy. Like,
so when I have it on a burger and you bite in and it's crispy, then you're like trying to tear it. It feels like I don't like that. So
see. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right. It's got to be done correctly if you're putting it on the burgers or whatever. Funny stories, since we're on funny stories about ranch, my wife is a huge ranch fan, right?
Okay.
And when I met her 13 so years ago, one of the things she'd do was I'd cook a pizza in the oven or on the pizza maker, right? And she'd take her pizza and dip it in ranch. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, and she's like, oh, it's awesome. And it took a while, but she got me to try it. And now both of my kids eat ranch on pizza. I'll occasionally put some ranch, dip it in. I mean, it's funny what a person gets used to.
So I totally spaced it while we were talking about it, but Starving Rooster has one of the best combos of pizza and ranch. Oh. Their ranch is perfect for
Who's got
pizza.
the best ranch in town?
Oh, wow. This is a big subject right here. So
I can name the two best places.
Shots has good ranch.
They're in the top two.
the Cajun Ranch or Cayenne Ranch at Slim Chickens is top notch.
Is it? Okay. I can't say if I've tried that one.
The ranch at Starving Rooster is a little bit runny. Rockies actually has decent ranch.
Okay.
There's one I'm missing that I really love, but I cannot remember. Urban Gourmet has pretty good ranch.
You want to know the
best? Where's the best?
One of the best too. Like I think Shots is right there. Night Train Pizza.
Okay.
When you order their pizza,
I have not had their ranch.
Oh, dude, you could drink it. It's that good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that
good.
Man,
I like me some good ranch.
So order, even if you don't want a whole pizza, order like a what do they call them? A Stromboli or one of those, and get a cup of ranch with it.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed, I promise. And if you are, I'll even pay for it. Just give me the leftovers. So
sounds good. No, I believe that. No, I'll have to try that out. All so it's the top two is Shots and Night Train for ranch.
For ranch, yeah, gotcha. Absolutely. I mean, at least in my humble opinion.
Underrated ranch?
Who?
Dairy Queen.
I can't say as I've ever tried the Dairy Queen ranch.
Yeah, that's a place.
I guess you don't think of ordering ranch unless you're going to order a food or a burger there.
Yeah. You don't think about it there.
Usually if I'm going to Dairy Queen, again, we don't eat out a lot, but if we're going to Dairy Queen, it's for ice cream for the kids and, not burgers and fries, but that's good to know. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to do a ranch taste testing competition deal. That'd be fun.
If you do a ranch taste testing, let me come in because I'll bring the Night Train and the truck stop stuff.
Let's do it.
So you ready to get on to our regular stuff? All right. So this week we're going to talk a little bit about national politics, and then because we've had a lot of city council stuff in the last couple of weeks, we're going to kind of pivot to city stuff and cover most of that. So with the national stuff, a couple of the things that I've been really interested in is Trump's cabinet picks. How are you feeling about a lot of that?
Yeah, so Trump's cabinet picks have been, to use the word of my generation, epic.
Absolutely.
I haven't been totally upset with many of them.
Yeah. So have you had any that have kind of freaked you out when we started it? Like hearing them?
And the reason why they haven't freaked me out is because I am prepared for a completely different style of government for this 4 years.
I think, to your point, absolutely. And I think what most people in the country that are excited about the picks are saying, I can't wait to see them dismantle our federal government and get rid of all the bureaucrats and all the waste and everything else. And I think that's what a lot of his picks are, right? Yeah. They're people that, number one, he trusts and are in his court. He knows they're not going to sway or change or anything like that. But they're people that he can trust to absolutely disassemble what we've been seeing for the last 50 years.
Right. So, yeah. I think a lot of people are upset with the Hegseth pick.
Well, okay, let me ask you why. Why? He's a military vet. He was a major when he retired. He did 2 tours, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq. He is 100% for the American soldier and the Army and all the different branches of the service. So why did it freak you out?
Well, I don't know that freaked me out, but it freaked others.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you.
Yeah. I think that there's the uncomfortability though with people outside of the Pentagon, outside of the establishment, outside of that in those roles, and I think that's weird. I do. I'll say, there was a trend going around of using the word weird.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's weird. Because
didn't the losers start that? Just asking.
He's trying to get me in trouble, but Hegseth will be interesting because it won't be the status quo, and so it'll be interesting to see the as well documented. You've talked about. I'm not adding anything new on this. It's just going to be interesting to see the approach to war, to the approach to how the military gets upgraded, and things like that. Also, I mean, there's some very strong things he said about DEI and things like that, and it's going to be interesting.
Cut it, all of it,
to see how he implements that stuff.
And I mean, again, I understand when one group is in control, they're going to move their way, and when the other group is in control, they're going to move their way. But some of the things that the left and the Democrats have been doing on a national level have been very upsetting to a lot of people in this country. Yeah. And so I think now we're starting to see the sentiment sway the other way, or the sentiments sway the other way. And that's okay. I mean, it's going to go back and forth like that always. But I think a guy like Hegseth, as an example, who hasn't built his life and his career in politics and in the military, is a fresh perspective to that, right? He doesn't want to get us in war because he was a soldier. Yeah. He knows how it affects these guys. He doesn't want woke and weird policies in the military because their only job is to defend this country. It doesn't matter, how woke they are. Your job is to go out and defend this country. And then I think the biggest and third point I was going to make with him, he scares people. Mm-hmm. And if he scares the establishment, that in my mind is the very best pick we could possibly have because there's a reason he scares them.
Sounds good.
He's not controllable, right? Like a general, a 4-star general who's the commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is a politician as well as being a soldier.
Right.
And so they are controllable. I don't think Hegseth and the people that Trump has been selecting are controllable.
Right. I was going to say a similar sentiment a different way, and that is these people are not needing the government for a job. Yeah. So Hegseth can go back and be a TV commentator and make more money and have in some ways, a better life than having this position. And I think that's good. And you see that with Doge.
Oh, I think Doge is going to be fantastic, dude.
Vivek and Elon. Stuff like that where they literally don't need it. So they're either chasing power, is what some might say, or they are literally love America and just want to prepare it to be better.
I think that's what we're seeing. And to your PowerPoint, I don't think they're chasing power. I think they're going to start limiting power, right? Yeah. Because the federal bureaucracy, which we hear about all the time, has so much control and power in this country that nothing ever gets done. Imagine if we get rid of, and there might be a little pain because we lay off 300,000 federal workers. Okay, go find private jobs just like everybody else. But I think it's fantastic.
The jobs reports, they might not have a chance.
Well, that's going to change. That's going to change, and don't kid yourself. I mean, and we talk about this, and I think that's part of the Trump picks too. What are the two levers that the federal government or any government has to control economic growth in the economy?
Don't ask me for intelligent answers.
So reduce regulation and reduce taxation. Yeah. Right. I think that what you're seeing in the stock market, in the Bitcoin world, in all of those things, they realize that we are going to reduce regulation and reduce taxation. And those two things are going to lead to a spur in job growth, in small business growth, and those things. So I think it's fantastic. Understanding that this is not a financial show and we are not giving financial advice, is it time to throw a bunch of money? But I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express the other night. So no, I'm just kidding. Is it time to throw a bunch of money into Bitcoin? Did you see it's up over $30,000 since the election? Wow. Like I put money in on the night of the election. Did you? Yeah, not very much. Well, I mean, if you have money to put in, good for you. Right. But I mean, what was it at? 61,000 and some change the night of the election, and it's over 93,000 today. Right, yeah. When I checked it, literally before we jumped on, it was at 99. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic, but it points to what the economy, the business owners, and the people that are investing in this country are seeing. They're seeing that things are going to get better. Specifically with Bitcoin too, I think there's a lot of interest to see how Trump is going to work it in federally. Oh, because they were talking. He's talking about doing a crypto czar or whatever they want to call it, right? Yeah, which again I think is a good idea. I don't think it needs to be governmentally regulated, but I think having somebody help pull it into the federal government or help to use the different avenues that we can use as a country with cryptocurrency, I think is a great idea because it's not really being explored right now. Yeah. So interesting things. Yeah. So what are your top 3 picks? Oh, my top 3 picks. Okay. First of all, I had Matt Gaetz was one of them, but he resigned while I was driving over here or pulled his name out of contention because he said he felt that it's unfair with all this stuff coming out. It's going to be a distraction for Trump and his team. And I you know what? I applaud Matt Gaetz for standing up and saying that. He's the kind of person we need in Washington because I don't think you'd see that on some of the other sides. Like if you go ahead and, look at some of the nominations under Biden or even go back to Obama and how controversial some of them were, very rarely did you see any of them pull their names because we don't want to be a distraction. Right. So anyway. Just to counteract that, okay? Do you think that there's a concern of what's going to come out in the ethics report and Matt Gaetz feels like the best way to keep that concealed is to just No, I mean, I see your point. I don't think it matters. That ethics report is coming out whether he's there or not.
Okay.
Right? They aren't, but he's denied it. And federal prosecutors said, hey, we're not going to prosecute this. Right. There's not enough there. So, I get it. I understand it. And it's, but maybe there is some of that. You could never know, right? Yeah. But what he's saying is the right thing, at least in my mind, whether it's truth or not.
One more thing on Gates.
Yeah.
Is there a chance? Well, there's a chance, but how likely do you think it is that Governor DeSantis he has to make an appointment for the empty Senate seat that Rubio is going to leave? Is that going to be Gates?
I think this has all been worked out, because he gave up his position in the House right away so they could find somebody to replace him.
Yeah.
I think before he pulled his name, I think this was worked out, and I think he's either going back to the House or he's going to get that Senate seat.
And there is talk that maybe he can go back to the House still because he resigned out of this last session, but he is still elected to the next one. So.
Well, DeSantis has to replace.
But I think that one has to be a special election. For the House, it's special election, and Senate, it's appointment.
Doesn't he have 2 House spots, though? Oh, is it an election for the... I thought he was appointing all 3 of them. I mean, you could very well be right.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a pollster or a pundit or any of those
political
things.
Political expert. We're trying here.
Yeah, we're just seat of our pants, you
know. Interesting things, though.
So anyway, Getz was going to be one of them, and I liked him because I honestly... I thought he would go in there and dismantle the Department of Justice as far as getting rid of the bureaucrats, the FBI. I mean, because they've weaponized it, right? We know that. So whoever goes in there, I think that's important. So we'll cross Getz off. So my next favorite was Pete Hegseth. Okay. I think Pete Hegseth will be fantastic as the Secretary of Defense. Yeah. I can't imagine a more down-to-earth Christian human being worrying about our soldiers and our military than him. I don't think you'll see that every day. And if you go back over history, why we've had some very good people in that position. All of them are politicians, right? And that's my problem anymore is politicians.
It's fresh not having a politician.
It is. So Hegseth, loved him. Homan.
Borders
the borders are and the deportation and all that. I think that is fantastic.
He's sending out some pretty strong tweets.
He is. And I mean, did you hear his comments the other day when the mayor from Boston said, hey, we're not going to help you. We're going to, and he's like, okay, do so at your own peril. We're coming in there. We're going to do our job. And if you stop us from doing our job, then you're going to face the wrath. And here's the one thing I will say on that, and then I will move on. If these large cities that want to call themselves sanctuary cities want to oppose the will of the people in the federal government, that's perfectly fine. Take away their federal funding. You get no more federal funding from the government until you help us resolve this situation.
So if that happened, would you make Minot start opposing the federal government? Would this be a back channel way for you as a city councilman to get rid of all federal funding? I'm teasing you.
You know how much I love federal funding.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Maybe Minot needs to become a sanctuary city.
I'm kidding.
No, me too.
Yeah. So third pick.
So my third one then, I would probably go back and I'm going to go to Secretary of State. I think Mark Rubio will be a fantastic Secretary of State. He's no nonsense. He sat on, if I'm not mistaken, the Senate Intel Committee and the Foreign Relations Committee at 2 different times. So he's well-versed in the things that are going on in the Middle East and over by Russia and everything else. So I think those would be my top 3. How about you?
Rubio seems like a pretty down-to-earth good guy.
Yeah.
First one, I'm sticking with it. This is a really weird one, but it just seems so perfect when it's made, and that's Huckabee as being the ambassador to Israel. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. That Huckabee has to be excited about that because obviously he has a strong Christian background. Yeah. And so I think that is probably a good move. Let's see. I have not actually made a top 3 in my head, so I'm on the spot here. Okay.
Wow. You know your restaurants in town, but not your favorite picks for Trump's cabinet?
I go to restaurants every single day. I don't look at well, not every single day, but I don't look at the cabinet every day. Let's see. I like Holman, and that's not because you said it. That's one that it feels like that one he's going to be very hard and strong.
These are serious people about to do a serious job, and I think that's fantastic.
I'm going to go with the one that we referenced earlier, I am interested and I think excited to see what Elon and Vivek are going to do. I love that.
Dude, I think Doge.
Yes.
I think that is going to be one of the most stunning things we see out of this administration, right? Like, I don't care if they can't actually cut $2 trillion off of our budget. If they can get even $1 trillion, imagine the amount of taxes that don't have to be collected to pay that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a significant amount of money.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up a tweet real fast that Vivek made the other day.
Okay.
I think it was interesting. That's why I'm going to take the time to pull it up. I think it's worth it. But he was pointing out, and it has gone around a little bit, he was pointing out at how much or how pathetic our federal government is at passing audits. Did you see that?
Yeah, the Department of Defense audit failed their 7th audit in a row, and there's $842 billion they can't account for.
Right. And then there's a second... And I'm going to go so far back in his tweets, it's going to take me a minute. I have a screenshot on my phone.
You're good. You're good.
But, all right. So here, Pentagon can't fully account for the $824 billion, $236 billion in improper payments in federal programs in 2023, $200 billion in pandemic relief went to fraud abuse. The U.S. failed to track $1 billion in Ukraine aid. So right there, you have monies. Now, obviously, you can't just cut all that. But you have monies right there equating over 1.3 $1 trillion.
That's insane.
Right there. And then USDA showed significant deficiencies across multiple divisions. Their budget was 203. Department of Education just failed to receive a clean audit for its 3rd time in a row. Their budget was 268. Pentagon failed its 7th consecutive audit. It's just crazy.
It never ends. And I mean, that's the waste in the bureaucrats, right? Like, if they can actually clean up some of this in our federal government, get the budget down, get the bureaucrats out of there. I mean, imagine if 300,000 people got laid off. What kind of savings is that in federal wages right there?
Right.
You know, not that I want people to get laid off, but some of these guys go in and they don't do anything. They spend money and justify their jobs.
Yeah, somebody would. I haven't verified this, but somebody said that some of the departments that RFK would be messing with have already started packing bags. Good. The whole department's going to be gone.
What do you think about the department, the whole thought process of the Department of Education being wiped out?
Okay, so maybe you know the answer to this, because this was a discussion I was having with somebody. They were talking about how the state colleges receive federal aid. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that there'd be a chance that state colleges, even in North Dakota, would be shut down?
No. I mean, they receive a little bit of federal aid, but the majority of state college money, if I'm not mistaken, comes through the state itself.
Yeah. Cool.
So
overall, I think it's a good thing, because anytime you get federal aid, there's strings attached.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it matters the administration. Yeah. There's this guy at city council I listen to every once in a while. So I don't think there's any way that you can get around that at all. Okay. It doesn't matter what administration. Do you want a string that Trump attaches, or do you want Biden? Maybe you would prefer the Trump string, but ultimately there's still a string attached.
Well, I would, and I get your point, and I understand that there, but let's take that out of the mix for a minute, and let's go back to the Department of Education when it was founded, and what's happened in this country since the Department of Education with a $288 billion annual budget has done. Through the last 50 years, continuously, the American school children have rated lower and lower and lower and lower across the world in math, reading, spelling, and every science, every other major category that you need. So if the Department of Education is doing such a great job, why are we putting dumb kids out there? You know, which, and again, I don't mean our kids are dumb, but if we rate that poorly in the world, what's going on here?
Right, yeah. Right. Basically, statistically we have to do better.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you go through the public school system, and it really groups you in pretty hard on a lot of things. Yeah. You can, and there is a way around it, that is to have more private schools and maybe give incentives from state governments for that, similar to what the public school system would get. So that way you would have a little more variance, because variance is good.
Right.
It creates
Well,
iron sharpeneth iron.
Imagine if the federal government, we got rid of the Department of Education, right? And the federal government didn't even take all 288 billion, but they took 150 billion and split between the 50 states and said, hey, you guys each get this. We saved ourselves $138 billion. And this federal aid goes to the states for the state to make the decision where that money goes for education in the state.
It would be probably much better used.
And much more efficient.
In most states.
Much more efficient.
Much more efficient.
So.
Yeah.
What else? Let's see. How about RFK, Kristi Noem, any of those ones jumping out at you?
I mean, probably the most aggravating thing isn't one of the cabinet members. It's Thune being Senate Majority Leader.
You know, I wasn't happy with that either, but I've seen him talk a couple times. I did. I'll be honest with you. I emailed both Hoeven and Kramer and said, do not vote for Thune or the other guy. I said, vote for Scott.
John Cornyn.
Cornyn out of Texas. I said, vote for Scott. And both of them responded back to me. Hoeven sent me back a form email saying, hey, thanks for reaching out, blah, blah, blah. Kevin Kramer actually responded back and told me why he voted for Thune and everything like that, which, you know, again, impressive, but they're not doing the will of the people.
Right, yeah.
Because I think if you'd asked everybody in North Dakota, they'd have said, vote for Kelly.
Yeah.
Or Scott, I'm sorry, Mike Scott.
Give Kevin Kramer credit, because it seems like he tries very hard to connect and stay engaged with the people, and I think he deserves credit for that. Whether or not he always actually votes the mind of the people, there may be a disconnect there.
How many of our politicians actually do that? I think we could count on one hand the number that do.
Yeah, right. So. And that's what's interesting to me about, like, even when you really get down to that, the whole party system, because they're supposed to go represent us. Yeah. But they really don't represent us, because they really don't vote what the people want. It's just you're hoping that person gets close enough.
Well, and
Isn't that weird?
I'm going to go ahead and say, similar to as we've talked about before, like when we were talking about the city pay and everything, a merit-based system, right? Rather than this tenure system. These politicians, and again, that's why I think term limits in Congress and the federal government would be fantastic, because these politicians get in there and they get ingrained in for life, right? And then they're just waiting their turn to get what's theirs, to get, you know, the rewards for all the time and all the votes that they gave other people. Right. And I think that's crap. I don't think that's in the best interest of the American public or in the best interest of them as politicians, because honestly, I think we're all getting tired of that. Yeah. You know, so
we are. Yeah. It's happening. Interesting. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. RFK, I am excited to see what he does.
I was reading a conversation between him and Trump. I don't know if you saw this or if we've talked about this already, where Trump said, hey, come in, tear apart the health department, HHS, whatever. He said, the only thing you can't talk about or touch is oil. Yeah. And he said, other than that, you have free reign to do whatever you need to do. And I'm like, God, I'm anxious to see what some of these guys do. I really am, because, you know, like, I think you could always, and even in Trump's first administration, and he admitted this, he didn't really know what he was doing, and he picked people that were part of the establishment to help him. Gotcha. And they didn't help him, right? They betrayed him and did things that they probably shouldn't have done. These people that he has selected now to be these cabinet picks, they aren't beholden to the government, right? They don't like what's been going on in our government just as much as you and I don't like it. And so to see that he is reaching across the aisle, right? The Tulsi Gabbards, the RFKs, the people that have never thought that they liked Trump, the never Trumpers that are out there that now all of a sudden are Trumpers. Right. Yeah. Wow. I think we're going to see a revolution in this country, hopefully, that doesn't include gunfire.
So, I agree with you.
But anyway, what else? So you want to, I know we don't, we've covered quite a bit of that stuff. I know there's a lot of questions on city council stuff. So you want to jump over to the city stuff?
There's a lot of questions on city council.
Because in the last 2 weeks now, we've had 4 meetings.
Yeah. What's up with that? Is it time for full-time positions at city council?
Oh, I'm not going to say that we need to pay everybody full-time. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some positions, I know, like as the mayor position, that position, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of duties and requirements and things. That person probably deserves to make a little bit more than $1,019 a month. But, there were, like, we signed up for it, and I'm fine. You know, I didn't do it to make money. That wasn't my goal. I did it so the city would start saving and stop spending the way that we've been spending.
So that's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, it's not working out great, but I think we're doing some good things. You know, like we've been able to direct and steer things a little bit, you know, and change some minds and ideas, and we've gotten some votes through. And I thought the budget process was fine, and was great. I wish we'd have gotten a chance to write a budget from the council that we could have compared to the city to see which way we wanted to start. But maybe next year we'll get to look at that. So
yeah, it's crazy. Did you know that you can just, it's part of the agenda. You get to see how much each person in the city makes.
Yeah. That's we get to see it's all public record, right?
That's crazy, the amount of transparency that's required.
Yeah,
in some of those areas.
Is it what is it? 1.3 million a pay period, right?
Yeah, but I mean, right here I have a list of how much.
Yeah,
Corbin Dickerson made and how much.
Yeah, again, they're public officials. They work for a municipality, local government. So I mean, that's all public record. But yeah, I don't know if most people know that when they look at those city council things that numbers are in there. Yeah, so
it's crazy.
There's some big numbers in there.
No, it would be interesting to see what would happen if there was a little bit more pay on the for the city council, honestly. And I'm not saying that because you're here.
I appreciate that because I don't want more money. I'm doing this, and I think, you know, we've talked about different things over the time, and I said this to somebody earlier, and Alderman Blessum has said this a couple times. I have young kids, and at some point I know they're going to go away to college or maybe join the military or whatever it may be, and eventually I want them to come back to Minot. Right. I want my kids to come back here. And if there's no job opportunities and there's no housing and Minot's a dying community, they're not coming back here. That's why I'm trying to do and make the changes we're trying to make so we can change the economic development and growth of Minot so it is growing rather than shrinking. You know, we are bringing things to town that people want and need. So there's a reason to move here or move back here.
Right. So, to be fair to the listeners, that was not on the agenda list. I threw that sideball, so we're really not campaigning for anything here.
No,
but yeah, it is crazy. But there's bigger things that are going on at the city right now than the wage of the city councilman and mayor. One of those things is this 0.5% sales tax that came up for discussion.
Okay, which one? The park board one or the public safety one?
Let's start with the park board.
Okay. So last Tuesday we had a special meeting. The park board came to us. They talked to us about wanting to build a $17 million turf facility just to, I believe it's the southeast, however you look at it, of the Mesa.
Yeah.
I don't mind the plan. As I said on the city council meeting Monday night, I received more calls after those two meetings last week going into Monday than I'd received in 5 months. Calls, texts, emails. People are not happy about considering taxes. I mean, the city of Minot as a whole, from what I've gathered, I didn't have one person reach out to me and go, hey, that sounds like a good idea, really? Right? I mean, that's
the common thing maybe.
Well, it is. You're not going to, the people that are okay with it aren't going to say anything. It's the people that aren't. And we realize that. But so at Monday night's meeting, I brought up a couple things that constituents had called me, emailed me, or texted me about that they were concerned with. Number one was the date. And so I asked if we could change the date from April to June to make sure that all the snowbirds are back in the state and they want to be able to voice their opinion. Because if we look back to 2 years ago when the school bond went out in December, there was so many people gone. You know, that was the biggest complaint from everybody. Well, we didn't know about it. Oh, we were gone. We didn't get a absentee ballot. You know, I mean, it wasn't well publicized. It was kept kind of quiet as far as, hey, there's no special election. And I think the park board, to their credit, made the decision, hey, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I brought up was I said, hey, people are concerned that in 5 years you're going to get to tax them again on property taxes, and they don't like that. Now, I wasn't saying, you know, Mike or somebody may have misinterpreted that I was saying, hey, we should change this to you can't ever do that, which isn't our authority to do.
Right.
But I was saying people were concerned and we should see about maybe saying, hey, we're not going to do that permanently. Well, to the park board's credit, they met Wednesday night and they I got a call from Perry Olson, the president of the park board, this morning, and I got a notification yesterday through the city that they changed that 5-year moratorium or abatement on taxes to 20 years.
Wow.
So, to the park board's credit, I think they're doing everything they can to show people that, hey, we're not going to try and double dip. This is important to us, and we will give you some property tax relief. Because if you look at it, let's say you have a $500,000 home, all right? Just being that number, that'll save you about $350 a year, and over 20 years, that's $7,000.
Yeah.
And I heard Miranda this morning talking about, numbers. Well, in order to do that, you would to spend the same $7,000 in property tax, you'd have to spend $700,000 over that 20 years on taxable things in Minot. Clothes. For most people, that isn't going to be a realistic thing, right? They're not going to spend that kind of money. So, in some instances, for some people, that may be a good break, right? Yeah. But our job as a city council on this isn't to decide whether the tax should go through or not. That's up to the citizens, right? So I'm fine with allowing them to put it on there, but I just wanted to tell them some of the concerns we'd heard in the community.
Yeah,
and so
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks like it's gonna come back before us on the December 2nd meeting, where they're going to show us the change from the 5-year to the 20-year abatement, and the change in date from April 29th to June 3rd.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah,
that's.
Well, I mean, have you guys?
My word, interesting, and
everybody has been talking about this for the last week. So, I mean, what have you heard?
Yeah, the biggest concern that I think I have in talking with people is that it's going to be a facility that's once again built for. I say once again because it feels like the same thing with the Mesa. It's built for special groups. And the general public does not have the opportunity to get much access to it.
Right. And that was one of the concerns we brought up too when we were sitting there talking about it, and I don't know if it was me or Mike or one of the other guys that said, hey, we hear the similar thing right now. It's hard to get ice time for all the people that want to use the ice. I mean, to the point where the general public only gets like 3 or 4 hours a week to go in there and actually skate. I said, if you're going to build that kind of facility, is it going to be open to the general public, and are the hours going to be there for them to use it?
Right.
Which is important. And again, ultimately, it's up to the citizens in Minot to decide that.
Yeah.
Do we believe it?
We have an interview with Ellie, the lawyers. That'll be coming out here soon. But I believe I used this example in that interview. And our church, we have a conference, and we rent the Mesa, one of the rinks, for an event after one of the services. And we have to call, at least the way it's been in the past years, and now I'm just programmed to do that. We have to call after basically October 15th to reserve it for November. Once all the hockey schedules are released, then it's determined whether or not we're able to have ice time or not. And I mean, I get that there is some priority, but we're talking about 3 rinks now. We're not talking about it's the only rink in Minot and, hockey gets precedent. We're talking about precedent. We're talking about 3 rinks now in Minot in a facility, and we can't reserve it until October 15th in order to get ice time. That doesn't feel fair to the public.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, they're prioritizing, and again, I'm not saying right, wrong, or otherwise, but they're prioritizing the hockey over everybody else that would want to or need to use it, and it's a public facility, like the community paid for it. So, and we've heard that argument. Everybody's heard that argument about the Mesa
old one. And I'll say this because that's a little bit of slam. I will say that working with the Mesa has been great. They go and they are very generous. They give a fair price to the church and all that. So that part of it is great working with the Mesa. It's just always been weird about the scheduling part.
Well, and again, we're not, I don't think you are. I'm not busting on anybody about how they do or operate it. It would be nice if there is more availability to the community in some of these places that the community is building.
Right, for sure. I think that part can't be lost.
Absolutely.
You can't get the building up and be like, all right, sweet, now we have a new toy. It's actually the community's toy. We all get to
share. I mean, again, and this can all, if it passes, and I think we as a community need to sit down and say, hey, okay, we voted for this, but we expect this many hours a week or this many hours a month where it's open to the general public and nobody else can use it but the general public. Right? I mean, what's wrong with that?
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I think like overall, I kind of don't see a problem with it, which is kind of weird.
Well, again,
I'm nervous about the sales tax, though. I am.
If the if the citizens in Minot think it's a worthwhile project and they would rather exchange property tax for sales tax, meaning they're not going to pay as much out of their budgets because you'll never reach those numbers.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. You know, for some people it's great, but like Mike Blessum had said, for the people, the lower income people, raising sales tax directly hurts them more than property tax does, because chances are they don't own a piece of property. They're probably renting or something. Yeah. And every time they go buy something, we are now taking more dollars away from them.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, it's a fair point. And I don't think that there is any world where we can be honest and say that sales tax is a solution to property tax.
You have to use them both equally. And sometimes one is going to be better in a situation than another, but you can't continuously keep going back to the well all the time on both. And that's what we're doing here in Minot.
So I feel like the Minot Park is in one of those weird positions, unique positions that sales tax actually does potentially make sense.
It does. And especially, I mean, if the Park District and Visit Minot and all these entities can do the job of bringing people to Minot for different sporting events, for the Hoos Fest, for the fair, for whatever it is, the more people that we're able to bring in, then the more revenue we're able to raise for those different people, you know, for the park board or whoever it may be.
And they should have, like, the facilities that they're creating should have a direct influence on the amount of people that we can pull into Minot.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think it actually might make sense to do this. It's not a full-on endorsement yet, but I'm
Come on,
that
Switzerland.
Way.
You got to go one way or another.
I will eventually on this one. But I'm leaning towards being in favor of it.
I was listening to you this morning, just not to interrupt you, but I was listening to you this morning on the food talk thing, where you're like, well, you know, I don't know if one or two, I can't. And I'm like, Switzerland will never pick one.
That's right. I'm a full-on Swiss. Dude, it's hard. Like, it's hard to pick a top three.
Is it? I don't know about that. I mean, come on. Like, you pick what I bet you could sit down. Do you watch TV?
No.
Okay. You don't watch TV. You don't watch movies.
Okay. I have a favorite sports team.
Okay. Could you pick your favorite 3 sports teams? Football, baseball, whatever?
So if it was across sports, yes. But if it's in one sport, I would struggle.
Okay.
Because I'd have my favorite one. I'd probably have a second favorite one and be like, well, I follow this one because of this guy. I follow this one because of...
Right. Okay. Let's go to music. Right? Do you listen to music?
A little bit. It's going to be all Christian based.
Well, that's fine. But do you have your top 3 favorite songs? You do, right? They're on your iPod. I mean,
I don't listen to music that much.
Okay. What do you listen to in your vehicle when you're driving to this place?
I
Yourself?
don't listen. I don't listen to anything. I love the solace and I hear the sounds in my car and get concerned.
You truly are Switzerland then. You don't have favorites. Okay. Sorry. So
I don't have a favorite kid yet either, but that probably will develop.
Yeah, you can't ever say that though. No, I'm just warning you right now. Don't be like, hey, you're my favorite. You go to your room.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's go second one. Then we had another special city council meeting last Thursday, and that was on what they are calling the public safety half-cent sales tax. I'll be honest with you. I literally makes my skin crawl every time I hear a city or government entity use the term public safety, because all that is done for, in my opinion, is to stir up sentiment and make people feel like, oh, if we don't do this, we're going to be unsafe.
Yeah.
And that's not true at all in this instance, at least. Now, would it be nice to absolutely be able to do whatever we wanted, build a $50 to $70 million police station for these officers? It would be. If we weren't tied to a flood control program and the NAS program for the next however many years, I would say, yes, let's absolutely get into it. But the last thing we need to do is tie ourselves to another long-term project that's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars, because that is not fiscally responsible to the citizens of this town.
Right.
So
how do we, well, first off, let me ask you this. If you can only have one sales tax, is it the 0.5% sales tax? Is it for the public safety one or the park board?
Are you asking for me personally voting in the community?
I guess maybe you can't answer that question.
Well, I mean, for me personally voting in the city, I don't know how I'm going to vote yet on the park board one. But
I'm just saying, which one would you prefer?
The park board one.
Okay.
To me, again, because if we're talking about the police station and renovating or doing whatever we need to do, we have enough money sitting in the reserves, I believe, and that's what Alderman Blessum was getting at. We can do something there and fix that to make it workable for a short time, right? And then in 2 to 4 years, when the NOS 40 bips or 40 basis points falls off that sales tax penny, maybe then we start taking that money and setting it aside for a future police station thing, right? And get to a certain point and go, okay, we've got this much. Let's look at Lisa Olson's project and build on top of the parking garages or whatever it is, right? Rather than adding another tax out there for people, just because we want to get a big, brand new, shiny building. Again, we have a big, brand new, shiny building downtown. If this is the case, let's do this. Let's do a switch. Let's give the PD the city hall, and we'll move everybody, do a renovation, and move everybody from city hall back over to the old city hall and the PD over there. I'm not opposed to that, right? I mean, again, it's about saving money and being fiscally responsible in the city and for the community. And I'm not sure that everybody sees it that way, right? I mean, a city's job, in my opinion, or any government entity's job, is to continue to grow, to build that new building, to put those people in there. I mean, to continue to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Most of us that are fiscally responsible don't want bigger government. We want smaller government, right? It's
true.
So, I mean, that's just, in my opinion, if we had to come down to the two of them, and I think that's what you're going to see, because the Thursday meeting didn't really get much traction for the public safety half cent. So and like I said in that meeting, if you put one of them out there, like the park board one, you're probably going to get, it has a chance. If you put them both out there, they both fail.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of an 8% tax, though. I will say that. I'm not a fan of that. And that's the part that pulls me back on the park board. I really like the idea. I think it's a good idea. I think everything's great. I just, my one thing about it is that we'd be at 8% in small.
8.5. Well, if we only got the half. If we got the full
If we got the full, it's 8.5. If you get one of them, 8% in small town Minot, North Dakota. Yeah. Like, that's just a lot of money. That's higher.
Well, and did you watch the city council meeting the other night? What I said on there was, not only then would we be one of the cities in the state with some of the highest property tax. And when I say property tax, I'm not just talking about the city's portion. I'm talking about the overall property tax that we get from the park board, Ward County, the city, and the school board, right? We would have some of the highest property tax in the state of North Dakota, and then one of the highest sales tax rates. Right. What does that do for growth and economic development? Nothing.
What does it? Yeah.
Nothing.
It makes you want to live in Ward County more than Minot because you have a cheaper sales tax.
Well, you do. I mean, but then again, you don't get to vote on anything in Minot if you live outside the county, right? And then, or live outside the city limits, and then you're beholden to everything that's decided for you in town.
But I can just order Target online, have it delivered to my door, and I'll pay 2% less sales tax.
You would, absolutely. And one of the reasons that I built Spartan Firearms out where we built it was, well, there was two reasons, but one of the reasons was because the sales tax was 2% less. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about $1,000 gun, that's $20, that's and people will drive a long way for $20 in North Dakota.
Yeah, so especially on a gun. I mean, that's a very competitive market.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see what comes of it.
Yeah. So that was last week's meetings. Now let's jump to this week's meeting. What do you got from that night, from Monday?
Oh,
I heard you guys on Tuesday with Lisa talking about a few things.
We talked about a few things. So, all right. So one thing that was presented actually at that Tuesday one was Lisa's idea for the police department on top of the parking garage. Okay, so that sounds cool, and I don't have anything come against it. I'm just like actually thinking about the idea. Wouldn't that look pretty cool?
Again, if we had our druthers, but
I get that part of it.
I mean, that would be great. Let's go down there and build 3 stories. One of them's an office story, one of them's a patrol story, and one of them's the jail story.
Right. And then would you use all 3 levels of the parking garage for parking, or
absolutely? You'd have some city parking, and then you'd have more than likely your PD parking. You're going to have some regular parking in there, because if they do that move, municipal court will come over there somewhere too, right?
Yep, it's probably the lowest level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really not that important. You guys are getting to the end of this police investigation. There wasn't much that you guys had, just a small update on that.
Well, so last Thursday we approved another $35,000 to $50,000 because we have received the preliminary draft from the investigator on what's going on over there. And there was 2 other things that came up during that investigation that are going to require their own investigations. And so that is why we approved more money, so both of those things can be looked at. It's important that they get looked at. Neither one of the incidents, at least from what I'm told, are, how do I say this? Neither one of the incidents, from what I'm told, are minor. Right. Now, whether they're true or not, I don't know that, but they're not minor things. So they have to be looked at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So will that delay the primary?
It will not. So what they're doing right now, I know they're redacting some of the medical information and personal names for some things that are in there. There was some names spelled incorrectly, some dates that were incorrect. And so they're changing, or they're correcting those to get them correct, because you don't want to get somebody's report put out and then it have somebody's name spelled wrong or whatever it may be. I mean, it's just, so they're correcting those, and then we should be releasing it to City Council, which means we'll be releasing it to the general public here in the next few days. Yeah.
We'll be on the lookout.
It's 100, if I remember hearing correctly, it's a 143-page long investigation report.
Nice.
It's not small. It's not small.
Reading material before bed right there.
Some light. I mean, you know, and I've talked with the city attorney a little bit about it. And one of the things I said is, well, I'd like to get it as soon as possible, because you're going to have to read through it at least a couple times to digest everything. And then, God, did I read this and go back? I mean, so there's a lot there before the city manager comes to us with a recommendation on what we should do or what we shouldn't do.
Right. So. Absolutely. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I cannot get off of the word interesting today.
You love that word. Yeah, and that's your catchphrase.
I've been working on it, and today I'm doing a very bad job of it. So one thing that garnered a lot of discussion was this class training, whatever we're calling it, that the city employees going to take in order to become more efficient, essentially, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to be straight with this. Like, when you talk about the lean process and all of these other things, they're great for multi-million-dollar, huge billion-dollar corporations, right? For somebody or an entity the size of the city of Minot, it's fine, but it's a long process, 3 to 10 year process to implement that within your government or your group. And I guess my question to everybody in the city that works there, and this is as a city council member, would be, if you aren't looking for the best ways to save the city money and to be efficient in your job, is this job the right job for you? Like, I mean, in the private world, you don't go hire people that are like wanting to spend all your money and everything else. Why do we have that problem in the city? Like, why do we need to train our people to do that? And here's another question. Why aren't the department heads? Because the department heads have been through this training. Okay. I mean, we sat in with the department heads at the beginning of our term when we were elected to city council. They had this same group come in for 2.5 days and talk to us. And it was a good exercise, right? But it's a raw team building exercise. And I get that. We got to send our people to do those things once in a while.
Right.
But again, this is costing $26,000 to send a group of 20 people to take 2.5 days off to sit here at some training in the city. I would think that we could do that. We could promote efficiency and less spending without spending $26,000. But again, we approved it. It just needed to be talked about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes from it.
I mean, again, and I think I said it at city council. Do we hear ourselves? We just said we got to spend $26,000 so we can train our people how to spend less money and be more efficient.
I enjoyed you on Monday.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Somebody said it was a Monday while they're up there, and I felt like that was the feeling from a few city councilmen. Like, it's a Monday.
Yeah,
and there was more bluntness than normal, and I was enjoying it. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, and I've said this, and I don't mean this to be sarcastic or facetious in any way. I'm not up there personally. I'm not up there to be friends. And if people like me and the city council members like me and the city staff like me, I that's great. I appreciate that. But we were elected to do a specific job that the citizens of Minot did not feel was being done. And so that's what I'm going to do, whether people like it or not. I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to make the statements. I'm going to pull stuff that should be, that's put into the consent items that nobody would ever hear about, like a bridge in Velva. That was supposed to be approved without ever even talking about it. And so we pulled it. I'm going to pull those things from consent so people hear what we're doing, how we're spending our money, and can make an informed decision here at the next election. Are these guys doing a good job or are they not doing a good job?
Yeah. So bridge in Velva.
Don't get me started.
It was said by somebody I know who, that Minot is a very good regional partner. They said it facetiously. They were being funny.
That was Jason.
Yeah, that was Jason. We won't withhold his name from the record. And he was being funny because the point of it was like, we're putting this money in, we're getting some grant money, but nobody else is pitching in for this. So like, we should be concerned, like in a dog eats dog world, we should be concerned about what's going on in north of us,
right?
In this,
well, I mean,
but when the river gets past us, we don't care no more, right?
Well, did anybody before us care what happened to Minot?
Right, they didn't.
Right, I mean, the Canadians, we built the Rafferty Dam, we financed the majority of that, and we turned it into a Great Lake event for them, right? Yeah. They didn't care what was going to happen downstream. The people at Lake Darling, the Army Corps of Engineers, they didn't care because they were more worried about the wildlife.
Yeah,
I get it, right? We got to look out for those around us, and I understand that. But that bridge has been there as long as I've been alive. I've never seen it wash out. Even in the last flood, I don't think it washed out. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Oh, they will.
But you can drive out there on any given day and maybe see 20 cars, 30 cars go over that bridge. And we're going to spend $9.3 million. And now our city share of that is only 3.72. But McHenry County and Velva as a whole have not pitched in. Now, a gentleman that sits on the Souris River Joint Board called me yesterday. He said he was a little bit upset about what I was saying on flood control. And I started talking to him. He's also on the Ward County Water Board. And I said, look, I'm not opposed to flood control. But what I'm opposed to is these places haven't contributed. If this is a regional thing, flood control, then, well, they have been. I said, no, I was told by somebody in the city, because I asked when the last time any of these other counties, Bottineau County, McHenry County, Renville County, when they have pitched in. And it has been since 2018, 2019 was what I was told, since we've received any funding from these other entities. Mm-hmm. But here we are as a city being asked to spend $3.72 million because we're the regional partner. That's our lift. That's our ask here in the city of Minot, right? Now, I get, and Mike said this on the council that night, and some other people have said, well, Velva people come to Minot and they spend money here. Okay, that's great. What is divide 3.72 million by 1%, and that gives you how much money has to be spent in the city of Minot to make up that 3.72 million. Okay. It's $372 million has to be spent in this town in taxable sales to make that up. Now, our economy is robust, but it's not that robust, right? I mean, and again, over a course of 10, 20 years, while the people in Velva do come here, and I appreciate the people of Velva, I mean, I know people that live out there, it's absurd to ask the citizens in the city of Minot to step up and pay for this solely by themselves because we're the regional partner. And that was some agreement that was made 10, 12 years ago when emotions were high right after the 2011 flood. Yeah. That's my only point.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, if that's the way we're going to do it, I got a couple things Velva can pay for that, they can help us, pay us back in a different way if you don't want to do the flood control, right? Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's common sense, I think. But the thing that bothers me is we hide something like that in a consent item on our agenda, and the citizens would never know about it unless they click on it and actually look on it. That, to me, is not transparent. And so that's one of the reasons I pulled that and asked to talk about it.
No, that's good. I like that. It seems like there's an increase in items on the consent item list being pulled. It's something where we were trying to go and highlight every single consent item that got passed, but even the names don't do it justice a lot of times.
Sometimes until you click in them and read the memos, you have no idea what it's actually about. So
for sure. Yeah, very interesting.
What else? Then we had the the federal grant solicitation, you know, and again, I know the cities are always going to go out and look for federal money. I thought Alderman Blessum had a great plan instead of putting more sidewalks in and asking for that, you know, because we're forcing people to do this. You know, we grew up over in that area. Like Mike talked about how long he's lived there. I grew up right around the corner from all that. I lived on 15.5 Avenue Southwest growing up.
Yeah.
We rode our bikes, we walked, we did everything our whole lives growing up, and we had zero sidewalks over there. You know where we rode? On the road, just like everybody else does. Yep. For God's sakes, we put in bike lanes down on 16th because that was that important.
They're used, man.
So we're driving on the roads as it is already. You know, right. To me, I thought that was a great idea, but you know, the four legacy members of the city council thought it was a good idea to keep that in there. So again, that's the way it works sometimes.
Hey, sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah. So and then
the cold is getting to you.
The cold is getting to me in here. It is a little chilly.
It's like 55 degrees in this room.
Yeah, I don't have goosebumps yet, but I mean I could have left my coat on, I guess.
It's brutal, man.
That's all right. Next week we'll have the heat back on.
We will.
What else we got?
I think that covers city council pretty good.
Okay.
There's a couple other things, but overall that covers city council pretty good.
The other thing I think we had on there that I pulled was a consent item was the septage receiving station that they want to put out there, which again is fine, but why do we need to spend $26,000 to do it? It sounds to me like the people in the city at utilities and public works out there know that we want this, know that we need it. They probably have an idea where we're going to build it out there. Maybe they don't know what all the pieces of equipment and everything cost, but I'm sure we could appoint somebody in the city that maybe has a little time to go find those things. And that's kind of why I asked Jason, why don't we do this ourselves as a city instead of hiring Houston Engineering at $26,000?
Yeah, I remember that discussion. And it was said we just don't have time for it.
It's funny.
Maybe.
I mean, I get it. Everybody in the city is busy. Like, we have a lot going on. There's always fires that need to be put out and everything like that. And I'm not talking actual fires. I mean, you know, but we have 481 employees in the city of Minot or whatever it is at this time, 480 something.
It's crazy.
And we don't have one person that could go look up what it costs to buy this equipment and what it costs to build this building. Like, I mean, you could call a local contractor and say, hey, I need to build a brick building 12 by 30. What's it going to cost me roughly?
Right.
You know? So.
Yeah. No, I
and again, I'm not taking umbrage with anybody in the city.
No,
I mean, the city employees do great work. I know they're busy. I just think we can find more efficient ways to spend money and time.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. Maybe save the citizens some money.
That's ultimately, I think, the passion that you have that can be felt. It's not about the names. It's not about the faces. It's about the fact, are we being as efficient as possible? You're going to start your own Doge in the city of Minot.
Really? The city of Minot Doge, right?
Yeah.
Government Doge? I think we already started it back in June when we were elected, didn't we?
3. Yeah, for sure. So, and I think that's important. I think it's necessary.
I do too. I mean, you know, and we've said this, a number of people on the city council, from everybody that used to be on there to all of us that are new on there, we've all said the same thing. The citizens of Minot are tapped out. They don't have any more to give. We would love to, if we had our druthers, do whatever we wanted to do. But again, you know, until we get rid of some of these big, huge projects, it is not fiscally responsible to be spending some of this money. And I mean, I think there's areas we can save. So hopefully, you know, as we go forward, we can start to get a few of those pulled out.
We'll see how that works out. What's your plans for Thanksgiving? Big plans?
No big plans. My mom and dad flew back into town yesterday. They actually landed during that 50-mile-an-hour windstorm. Yeah, I was impressed. I didn't figure they'd get on the ground, but they did. My dad, though, they got off the plane, and Dad looked at me when he was getting in the pickup, and he goes, "You know what the pilot said to us?" I said, "No, what?" "We're going to try and land." I said, "Oh my God, that's not something you want to hear when you're on an airplane, is it?"
That's hilarious.
And then he's like, "No." I think he goes, "Everybody got a little nervous, you know." And, but no big plans. We'll. Mom called me last week. I went and bought the turkey because they were on sale. You know, I mean, they're out in Arizona, and she calls me and, they've called me Robbie my whole life. So growing up, I was Robbie. So she's like, Robbie, I need you to run over to Marketplace and buy a turkey. She said they're on sale for 70 cents a pound or whatever. And I'm like, you're in Arizona, Mom. How do you know what Marketplace's ad is? You know,
hilarious.
But that is the people of Minot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are frugal. We will save a dime wherever we can save a dime. And so I think it's hilarious. So anyway, Mom's doing Thanksgiving dinner again. We'll be over there, just a small family gathering. Sweet. So yeah. How about you guys?
You're a turkey guy.
I love turkey. I heard you this morning. You're another one of those. I'm going to say the same thing I said to Miranda about peanut butter and ranch. Anybody that doesn't like turkey, I'm not sure we can trust you.
Okay.
So, I mean,
there you have it.
But I will agree with Miranda. Smoked turkey is better than deep fried turkey, in my opinion. Grandpa and Dad used to smoke turkeys all the time when we were growing up. And to me, that is one of the best eats. And Mom likes regular turkey, so she makes those. And then at Christmas we'll have a smoked turkey.
Nice.
So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. We'll have ham.
Oh,
we'll just have ham.
Ham? No, I think tofu over at your house.
Hey, come on. So I think maybe some brisket, stuff like that. Yeah.
So you guys kind of do a non-traditional Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, probably to the chagrin of my mom, but that's all right.
Though it's like growing up, and I don't know why, but you look forward to it every year, right? The mashed potatoes, the gravy, the stuffing, the turkey.
You look forward to stuffing?
Oh, I love stuffing. Love stuffing. Are you kidding me? Man, your guys aren't doing it right then. That's all I got to say.
Oh, they're stuffing, but I don't eat it.
Why?
It's nasty.
Are you a picky
I am
eater?
Not picky, but I might be.
It certainly sounds like you are.
No, I really am not. Yeah.
So can I ask a question? And again, we got to get off this topic, but what kind of, is it just stovetop stuffing out of the box that your family makes? Do you know?
I've seen it done both ways.
Okay.
So Thanksgiving dinner starts out great. You get your ham, you get your mashed potatoes, some really good creamy corn, maybe some green beans, maybe this
green bean casserole. You mean
just straight up green beans?
Oh,
man,
okay.
With some bacon in it and some onions in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like my bacon there. And then get some cheesy carrots with a little bit of cracker crumbles on top.
Oh, no kidding.
Very good.
Huh.
So you got this stuff going on, and then somebody has the audacity to pass around, homemade rolls.
Oh yeah,
to perfection.
100%.
Somebody has the audacity to pass around cranberry, whatever.
Yeah,
that stuff is. I don't know why that's part of Thanksgiving.
So are
dinner.
you talking like regular cranberry sauce out of a can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that type of stuff. That's just nasty, man.
For the most part, I'll agree. I don't eat it. I love cranberry juice. I'll drink cranberry juice. But Grandpa, when we were growing up, Grandpa wasn't a big fan of cranberries either. So Grandma always was traditional. She used to start making this stuff called cranberry fluff.
Okay.
It had marshmallow stuff in it.
Yeah.
So just to get a little cranberry flavor in it. And she made that because that was what Grandpa preferred over that.
Nice.
And so we grew up eating that. Like somebody takes a can and dumps it in a thing. I'm not eating that. But you put the fluff out in front of me, I'll eat some of that.
That works.
So,
yeah. Stovetop dress, whatever.
Yeah.
Gets passed around. That's also not going to be going on my plate. Not a fan of that. Turkey.
It's breadcrumbs.
Dude.
It was seasoning.
No. So first off, I do think it's nasty. But
guys, can you please tell Jonathan that stuffing is not nasty? Please get on here and tell us.
But for some reason, and I'll have a very vulnerable moment right here, okay? For some reason, growing up, was led to believe, and it probably is true, that stuff not that it came from, but that some people would cook stuffing inside the turkey.
Yep.
And to me, that just makes it 10 times worse.
Okay, fair enough. I remember as a kid, you reach in and you pull out the giblets and the neck and everything out of the turkey.
Yeah.
My grandpa was he loved the neck.
Okay.
Grandma would cook the neck and he'd eat that sucker and we'd all be sitting there going, what the good God, know? But I get it. I understand that. Now, just on another stuffing story. So going back to the Germans, my grandma Laverne, when we were kids, she used to make homemade stuffing every year at Thanksgiving. And so she'd save different types of bread and crumb them up, right? But one of the things that the Germans do is in their traditional Thanksgiving stuffing, they put oysters in it.
Oh.
And so Grandma would always, and when I was little, I did not like it. But as I got older, and it's so good. It was so good. I don't know why.
He loves his stuff.
I love any stuffing. So Anyway,
It's not for me.
well,
It's a good day.
are we doing a show next week? I think
It's up to you.
Oh, I think we should. We skipped last week, so
All right.
we'll see what comes up and go from there. All right, guys, that's Let's Talk About It, Minot. Thanks for tuning in. You guys have a great weekend, and I don't know if we don't do one next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving.